One thing led to another. We started to organically network with people that we had no business talking to.
They don't want to hear from the old guy. They want to hear from the guys doing it right now.
My wife and I purchased our primary residence, right? And then that leaves Cory living by himself. He decides to house hack. We have a bunch of other duplexes, single families. We've raised private capital. We have been the boots on the ground guys.
People naturally want to be around you and they want to hear more from you.
I think that is so missing today's get rich quick, easy button, burn the boats nonsense. Alrighty, folks, I'm going to introduce you to a couple of guys who I think are doing it the right way. We're going to talk about leveraging your W-2. Yes, folks, your W-2 to grow a real estate portfolio. We're going to talk with Ryan and Cory. Ryan, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, Michael. Thank you for having us. We're thrilled to be on the show and finally be in the same room again, man. It's been a long time.
Yes, folks. I was on their podcast about 3 years ago or so. So this is fun for me to check in with these guys and see what they're doing. Cory, how are you?
I'm doing great, Michael. Likewise. Good to see you again. It's funny, when I reached out, I hadn't realized that it had been that long, but I'm really excited to catch up with you again.
Cool, man. Well, let's introduce yourself to the audience. Again, I appreciate anybody who is out there saying, you know what, leverage your W-2. You can do this. There are ways to do it. Then we'll talk about how you can shortcut some of these things to grow a little bit faster if that's what you want to do. But for me, it is all about getting to one. It's about getting that proof of concept. So let's set the stage. Who is Cory? Who is Ryan at the very beginning?
I can start this here. So at the beginning, Ryan and I met in college about 12 years ago now. And we knew for some reason, I can't believe it's been 12 years, but we knew for some reason that the two of us were going to connect. And we did. We were great friends, but you know, it's being good friends with somebody is not exactly how business partnerships always form, right? But we always loved talking about real estate, personal finance, even before we were doing any of it. So fast forward, we lived together after college. We actually worked at the same company for a little while, and I bought a house hack. I bought a 3-bedroom house. Lived in 1 bedroom, rented out the 2 bedrooms, went from spending $1,000 a month in rent to breaking even. And this was back in 2018. And, you know, we talked about it. Ryan also went and bought a primary residence with his wife. And then Ryan tells a story. I didn't even know this is how it happened, but he tells it sometimes. I posted a picture of, because I saved up from that first house hack, I bought a rental property. And I posted a picture on Instagram and he saw it and he was like, dude, you're doing the thing that you said we were going to do. I'm in. What are we doing? I was like, okay. So I decided that we should start a podcast. You know, we were so brilliant. We knew so much having 2 properties that I was like, we should start a podcast. And Ryan's like, what are we going to talk about? And I was like, well, I think people are going to lean into our story. They're going to like the authenticity and they don't want to be taught down to. They want to go along the journey with people. And that's exactly what we did. And this was April 2020. We had 3-4 units between us. So we started buying property together, the two of us. No LLC formation structure, no like business plan. We just bought a duplex, a triplex, a single family. We started a podcast and a social media platform at WealthJuice Official on Instagram to just for people to follow along on our journey. One thing led to another. We started to organically network with people that we had no business talking to. We started to get in rooms with people that just naturally brought us up to their level because we had a platform that they could share their story on. We bought 4 units went to 8 units, 8 units went to 20, and now we're at 70 units, not all of which we own just the two of us, but the magic of partnerships and forming great relationships with people that we met through the podcast. And yeah, that's the 60-second, maybe 120-second version of our story.
Very cool. Well, I'll get Ryan's version of it because sometimes they're different in little and subtle ways. But one thing I do want to highlight here, it's really funny to think about that picture that you posted that got Ryan's attention, because I'm reminded of now a great friend of mine, Millennial Mike, who posted a picture of his house hack in Seattle. He was holding a key and I just reached out to him cold because must have been 2018. My channel was infinitesimal. It was, a couple hundred people maybe. And I reached out to this guy cold because it's the early stories that I think resonate with people. People really wanted to go on their journey with you. They want to remember you when you had 2 or 3. As somebody who at the time had nearly 200, that sometimes is daunting, right? They don't want to hear from the old guy. They want to hear from the guys doing it right now. So I think leaning into the podcast, leading into building a brand before you knew you were ready, leaning in before you set up this complicated structure. Kudos to you. Kudos to you. So Ryan, what do you remember about that picture? What do you remember about the early days?
Ooh, well, not to make it the exact same story as Cory's, but when I saw that, I'll try to give you my perspective. But when I saw, you scroll Instagram all the time, and as we were like in this journey, I knew Cory and I would do something together. I didn't know what. We were always talking personal finance. We got into the FIRE movement, right, when we lived together, and we talked about it. And then I went my separate ways. My wife and I purchased our primary residence, right? And then that leaves Cory living by himself. He decides to house hack, right? And so we keep talking, but we're not seeing each other every day. So it's a little different. And I don't know where we lagged out, right? But then seeing that post go up, and I'm like, dude, I can't believe you bought it. Like, you didn't. Where did we leave off here, right? And so I was like, dude, let's hop on a call this weekend. Like, immediately when I saw it, congratulate him. And I was like, let's just do it. Let's jump in. Teach me what you learned. What resources did you use? And it was all the same stuff we were doing. He just actually took the one calculated step of just taking action, right? And that's where I think a lot of people fall off. They get so excited and they just stop and they don't do it. He did it. And I was like, Cory always had this, and I've adopted it. He always had this really quick start, if you will, right? Like, immediately when he would take some information in, he'd synthesize it. Maybe he knew 85%, built the parachute on the way down, just did it. And I'm a little bit more risk averse. So we land here, right? I hit him up. I say, dude, let's do this thing. And he kind of quickly pivots and is like, okay, well, let's start a podcast. I'm like, dude, how are we going to, what do you mean start a podcast?
What?
I'm like, we listen to Bigger Pockets. We listen, there was a financial blog I listened to, Mr. Money Mustache. There's like a lot of things out there, right? And so I'm like, to be on the other side of that, I didn't feel like I had the knowledge or wherewithal to do this, but I was like, you know what, if you're in, I'm in, dude, but just know, like, what I've now come to learn is the integrator in me refuses to say, hey, dude, we're just not going to do this. Like, I need to build out the system. I need to know there's going to be some backing, and I'm not going to half-ass it because that's just not my nature. And there's every dude, has a podcast. They started with their buddy, and then it falls off after 10 episodes or something like that. Right. So we agreed, okay, cool. If we're doing this, we're doing the thing. And with the podcast came, okay, we started a couple episodes. It was Ryan and Cory just sharing the basics of our journey, right? The theory here was Bigger Pockets and things like that. We love the guys, don't get me wrong, but it's very commercialized where there's two people with 200 plus 1,000 units. You can't really relate to them in some of the stories. And you're like, well, how do I go back to the beginning of 1,000 episodes and start with the guys as they go? Cory had the idea. He's like, listen, let's give our journey in the step-by-step of us going through it now, kind of what you alluded to in the beginning, Michael. And I was like, okay, I can get on board with that. So we started doing that. And at one point we were like, listen, we're running out of topics to talk about. Let's see if we can get some of the people we're reading the books about to come on our show. Chad Coach Carson is one of our now good friends and early mentors in the game, whether he knew it or not. We read his book, Retire Early with Real Estate. Cory's like, let's just cast a line. Let's see if he'll come on the show, share his story. We'd love to meet him. By the way, the nicest guy in the world. We wrote this big paragraph, tell him how much he inspired us, the whole 9 yards, to just stroke the ego a little bit, but also to say, hey man, like, you inspired us so much. We'd love to have you on our show. We wouldn't even started it without you. He's like, I'll give these guys a shot. Gave us a shot, came on the show. An incredible episode. He dropped so many nuggets, and we realized he gave us a compliment at the end of the show. He's like, you guys are really good at this. And we're like, oh, okay. Yeah. So it was the belief in us to give us that little fire to say, okay, we can do this thing. Like, we're at stage one. If he thinks we're decent now, watch us 10 years from now, maybe not that far out, but whatever. And so he took a shot. That led to us saying, hey, it's a lot easier for us to soak up knowledge and ask really good questions versus us trying to give all the facts and things we don't know yet. So we transformed the podcast to having guests on the show each week, and it scaled up as a domino effect. Once one big name came on the show, proof of concept, other people trusted that message was good. Then 5 stars came, left, right, up, down. Then the show's growing. We got bigger names on the show. It just allowed us to scale. And with the scaling came us acquiring more knowledge, being in rooms with millionaires, asking the right questions, learning how to get to their level, getting pulled up to their level. And then in turn, inspiring other people to take the step to get there as well. Yeah. And we formed partnerships. Cory mentioned this a little bit too, is like, we started vetting out people and saying, like, who can we really gel with? Who do we really understand? And who's willing to take a shot on us in the real world? We partnered with a couple other people. We have a 43 unit boutique hotel. We have an 18 unit apartment complex. We have a bunch of other duplexes, single families. We've raised private capital. We have been the boots on the ground guys. We've done flips. We've done burrs. We've done it all. We've tried everything. And that's come through 4 years of just taking immediate action once you learn something to the 85th degree, if you will. And hopefully that wasn't a mouthful, but that's kind of where the podcast has kind of allowed us to grow and scale. And it all came down from the journey starts with one. Just like I love Michael. I always remember you on our show, and I read your book. I love your book. You sent us 10 copies, by the way. We gave them out to all our friends. And it was, you start with one rental at a time. And our message is the power of one, like the one property, the one decision, that one bold calculated step that completely transformed our lives. And we would not be here today without taking that first step. And then we put training wheels on, right? And then now we can ride the bike without training wheels. And we just feel like we can coast and ride and teach other people. And so we want to inspire others like you inspired us.
That's amazing. We'll get into that story, one and all of that. But I want to talk about the podcast a little bit, because again, I'm trying to encourage people to start. I don't know if you want to call it a brand. Sometimes brand is too big a word. But if you have if you're 40, you've been doing something for a decade. You have passion in something. It doesn't have to be real estate. It doesn't have to be the fire movement. It could be classic cars, Pokemon, food recipes, whatever it is. But if you start putting yourself out there on your thing, very, very quickly, months, you'll start attracting a tribe of other people that like that thing too. And you have no idea where those relationships will go. Maybe there's a book, maybe there's, events. Just folks, take your passion. Dan Fleischman, one of the biggest influencers out there in the game, was on my show a couple of months ago. And I just put out a short from him talking about, hey, if your passion is headphones, right? These things, even if you just got a 5, 6, 7,000 people, but that's all you talked about was headphones, you'd be amazed at what, people would pay to be a part of that, right? A headphone provider. So again, folks, there's lots of ways to take your interest and passion, attract your tribe, attack other collaborators, and just have fun, right? I have fun doing this. I know you guys have fun with the podcast. And then it becomes so much more. You get invited to bigger rooms. You get invited to bigger groups. A little bit of success becomes more success, becomes lots of success. Folks, just get started. Get to the 85%. Don't over-engineer it. You don't have to have fancy mics and setups and lights. I did 1,000 videos on my freaking phone, right? Yeah. Just get started.
So I learned this from Joe Rogan, and not personally, but through the interwebs, I learned this from Joe Rogan. He says, people want to hear your genuine curiosity. That's what people want to hear. And that's what drives so many people to him, is he's genuinely curious about so many things. Part of what we teach people to do is not just to buy their first or next rental property. It's to start a personal brand. Because I've heard from Brennan at Budget Dog on Instagram. He told us when he came on our podcast, he said, attention is the new currency. And I thought that was just so powerful. Like, having something that you're passionate about that you can speak on at some authoritative point in the space. You don't have to be the best in the world at it, but if you can talk on it, people naturally want to be around you and they want to hear more from you. So for us, personal branding, building a digital resume has been, it's exponentially grown us. Ryan and Cory can only go so far, but if we get in the right rooms with the right people and show genuine interest and authenticity, and also do what we can to help the people around us, it's an osmosis thing. It's not woo-woo. It's real. It's happened to us. And that's exactly what we try to tell other people.
Well, let's close this podcast portion out with, where can people find it? Where do we send them? And then name drop some of the big names you guys have had on.
Oh, nice. Okay, cool. So you can find us wherever you listen to podcasts, Apple, Spotify, and we're the WealthJuice podcast. And I'm going to name a couple names where I can maybe finish it off if I leave anybody out. But we've had Tarek El Moussa on the show, Brandon Turner on the show, David Green on the show, Tony Robinson, yourself. That's another big name. Who else have we had? Who did I miss, Ryan? Anybody?
I don't know when this episode's going to drop, but we have a couple of big names. Rich Summers just came on the show. Mikey Taylor. We have a couple other big names lined up. I don't want to tease them too hard, but pretty much all the big names from Bigger Pockets, which is interesting. Chad, Coach Carson, as you mentioned, and then we weren't afraid to share some of the stories of the average investor that no one gets to shed light on, right?
Yeah, that's the key. Again, one more time, where can they find it?
Yeah, anywhere you listen to podcasts, the WealthJuice podcast, Apple, Spotify, Google.
The WealthJuice.
Yeah, you could find us either way, WealthJuice or just the Wealth or the WealthJuice.
Okay, cool. Yeah. All right. So let's get off that. Let's get back to getting started. One of the things I love about your message, and again, did a little preparation for this, kind of tracking you guys on Instagram, right in your bios, it says leveraging your W-2. I think that is so missing today's get rich quick, easy button, burn the boats nonsense. It drives me insane. So talk about it's okay to leverage your W-2. In fact, I think for most people, your W-2 is your superpower. Why do people not get that?
Well, Ryan probably has a lot to say about this too, but let me just start this out by saying I just burned the boats, and it took me I guess since I've been working, it took me 10 years to do that, right? So we're now leveraging a point where I'm full-time building our coaching business, building our real estate portfolio, and Rye is doing split time where he still has his W-2 job. So, and he's doing, he's working 5 to midnight too. So I think the point is that we are still leveraging the W-2 job. And I did it for so long to help us get loans, to help us be bankable. All of those things are so important. And I think what people forget is that you need a foundation, right? And if you're going to burn the boats when you have nothing, you're going to put your back against the wall, and it really depends on your personality. And some people might have that personality. I found out that I did, but way late, way so much so that we were both working sales jobs. And I'm like, it doesn't hurt you to make $100,000, $200,000 a year, get really, really, really good at those skill sets, and then say, okay, I have a calculated time frame where I'm going to leave. And by the way, you're never going to be ready, Michael, ever, ever, ever. You're not going to be ready. No one's going to come knocking on your door saying, Cory, now's the time to leave. That didn't happen to me. I was forced into it. It was a very weird scenario. And then after working, I'm 33, after working for this many years, I said, now's the time, just by making a decision. So leveraging I think the most important thing is building the skill set of learning how to work for other people. You learn that because you don't know how to hire people, and you don't know how to train them, and you don't know how to bring people along unless you have done the thing with working for somebody else. What do you like? What do you not like? And so forth. So I say leverage your W-2 job, and as long as you can stand it. And I work for my family's business, so I had the leg up there where it was not an easy position, right? Family business is up, down, left, right. It's crazy, but I didn't want to leave them. I didn't hate my job, and Rise in a similar position where he likes his job. So he's been able to leverage it in a number of ways. And I'll let you chime in here, Ryan.
Yeah, there's a lot of different things I'm thinking about here, but I think the number one thing, and you could call it golden handcuffs, if you will, and like that, I get people can stay trapped and stay in the race for a long time. But one of the big things that holds you is the benefits. I mean, if you go out and you're going to make $100,000 as an entrepreneur versus making $100,000 with a W-2 job, think about the benefits you don't have as an entrepreneur and going out on your own. And it seems basic, and you'll probably hear the hard-headed entrepreneurs be like, oh, that's BS. You could make 150, 200, you can make way more, but if you have all your time, which you definitely can. But what I say is, like, if you're starting a family, it just depends on your life cycle that you're in right now. There's seasons of life. And so, for example, we just had an 18-month-old baby, or we had a baby.
She's now 18. That's not how it works, Ryan.
You can see where my brain's at now. Yeah, I'm chugging along. She's banging on the door as we speak, which is hilarious. But I will say this: so the health benefits are absolutely incredible. You also have the 401k match, and what I think those are the basic things. The HSA, there's things that you can get involved in, but that shouldn't be pulling you and keeping you to the job. I think the things you learn in your W-2 are the things that you can parlay into creating a business. For me, I've taken the approach of like looking at my W-2 and the business as a whole and how they run things now. So like, as I first started, when we started our business, I didn't really know the first thing. I'm reading all the books, but then when you watch it in real time, like, okay, look, this is interesting what the marketing team's doing, what the email marketing team's doing, the finance team's doing. Why am I getting coached in this way? Why are they asking these questions? How are they leading me? So that way now when I hire and I coach and lead people, I understand what I like and what I don't like to do, and what I guess the right and the wrong way to do things. So what I'll say is one of the things that I think is slept on a lot with the W-2 jobs is the relationships you can build. So for Cory and myself, we were both in sales, right? And so I firmly believe this is just for us, he and I, like maybe that's why we are entrepreneurs now and do things, but we have this intrinsic like fire in us and competitiveness to go after the damn thing, whatever that is, right? So for me to just receive a salary, and whether I'm having an amazing day or having a horrible day, and making the same amount of money, it doesn't appeal to me as much. I'm more of a gamer where I'm like, dude, put me in the game. I want to prove to you how good I can be. And then I want to receive the pays or the dues paid that I'm owed for that. Right. So we're in sales. I love the ability to have a salary. Then also if I would like to kick it up a notch, I can get paid for that, whatever product I'm selling. If I'm doing that at a high level, you get compensated for that, right? And that's where you can really change your life. And it parlays into creating side hustles and creating businesses, because the more effort you give and more time you put in, you can make, like, you don't have the ceiling. You can break right through that glass ceiling. And so for me, I've built my way up in the sales game, and I'm around a lot of high net worth individuals. All of my clients are, I mean, they spend a good clip on the specific product that I sell. And so I get to talk to CEOs, business owners, entrepreneurs all day long. It's another way outside of the podcast for me to leverage this skill set and the curiosity I have to grow my business. So I love rubbing shoulders with them. I love learning from them, and they know what I'm doing. And the coolest thing now is to realize, hey, this guy is what I used to be. I had to start somewhere, right? And so they take a liking to you. They'll invest in something that you potentially have. For Cory and I, like our network of our real estate investors, if you will, in the South New Jersey area, my mentor was a client of mine in my W-2 job. And he gave us his network, and we've worked together for 10 plus years. He treats me as his kid. He's like, dude, I just, like, you've done so much for me. I want to give back to you. And I also just love being able to riff and talk to you about life and not feel like we talk about life, love, the pursuit of happiness, like everything. It's not just making money. And I think that's what people need. They need a sounding board. And he's like, dude, I will give you all my contacts. You've helped me in more ways than you could think. Me just being me, asking questions, making sure he's all right. And so it's allowed us to build our entire portfolio. Really started with this person giving us all of his contacts, us building on that, spider webbing out, and then, amplifying it with the podcast. So don't sleep on the relationships. I think the W-2 job, depending what you do, the relationships you build from there, you can extract them and pull them out and help yourself grow for the next thing that you have.
Well, let's talk about being sales guys, right? All three of us are sales guys. I've had a commission and a quota, except like a little 2-year period where I was a bean counter and accountant since I was 14. My comp plans the last, 15, 18 years were either 50-50 or 60-40. What does that mean? That means either 50 or 60% of my pay was a base. You can call it guarantee. And then the other 50 or 40% was what they called variable. And the reason I was in sales wasn't to get to my OTE, which stands for on target earnings. It was for that accelerator money, which is anything over 100%, which could be 2, 3, sometimes 5x the commission rate. So again, to your point, paid for performance. So I'm curious, the comp plans that you guys had the last couple of years, is it similar? Are they different? I just want to talk about the reward structure. So you don't have to give me real numbers, just like similar structure or no?
Yeah, similar structure to you. You almost nailed it with that. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. And for me, so it was different. It was a family business. We weren't built out like this, national company or anything like that. But what I have done is taken that, based on our gross profit, like whatever our the sales plus the gross profit would give me the percentages, the 1 to 5%. I was selling signage, but I've taken that into our coaching business now. And I know that like, if I can genuinely help somebody, we can make infinite amounts of money, but also while doing it the right way and bringing the right people in. So,
I want to talk about that incentive structure, because again, I'm just curious, because again, my W-2 network was very much either other sales guys, and I sold enterprise software. So we're talking 7-figure sticker price and up mainly. And then I was my customer base, right? Other people in IT, information technology. And it's wild to think about. It's funny you brought this up, Ryan. So, gosh, it's 2010, 2011. I'm writing as a featured blogger on BiggerPockets. I have a website called wealthbuildingpro.com that I'm tinkering with on the side, right? It's before video came out with YouTube, or at least before I knew it existed. And I'm writing about us flipping properties, or I'm buying REO properties. And to your point, I think it was the third, maybe the fourth, fifth article. I started having my network essentially throw money at me, right? Hey, I got 200 grand. This is when everything's blowing up, right? Just the world's on fire, at least from the economy. The economy's on fire. And they're like, hey, dude, I got 200 grand. I got 100 grand. I've got 500 grand, earning 1%. I see what you're doing. You need any money? it was just this kind of casual conversations. I've never asked for a penny. Never went out and said, hey, I'm raising capital. It's wild to think about, Ryan, just how your network, when they see you doing the kind of 5 to midnight that Cory talked about, they want to be a part of it and they're willing to support you. It's wild.
Yeah, it is. I mean, Michael, I think we can all speak this, but like we're built different, right? And I think people want to be around those types of people, and they try to, some people, how do I say this? They have the thought and the drive and the passion to get there, but they let life kind of suck them down, and they can't do it. And they're like, well, I see this guy that's figured it out. He broke through that. Mm-hmm. So let me try to be in the same room as him, learn what he's learning. And then the time and the effort and the energy to stay consistent with that over time. This is just a little note here. Is like, it can't be done by everybody. So for you to do that, they see, whoa, like he figured it out. I trust what he's doing. I'm going to throw him some money. I think this topic is interesting because I don't think you'll ever quite be ready to manage other people's money, and in a way of like, not every deal is going to be perfect. Not everything goes according to plan. And so it's a lot harder with friends and family to be for us. I don't love going the friends and family route. Some people love it. The issue that I have with this is anytime you're at a dinner party, anytime you're at a holiday party, people are asking you all the questions. You're never really off work, right? They're like, how do you do it? How can I get involved? I have this. And then if something goes wrong, not that you want it to, but just contact will be made. It happens, right? Mm-hmm. Then you're feeling guilty about if you brought your family into something and it didn't work out. It's just like, I love using my own money to take risk. And then when I've mastered something, I'm more than comfortable bringing other people in. And so it's just interesting when people have the handle for money and they're like, hey, can you double this for me as fast as you can? It doesn't really work like that.
It doesn't. Yeah. Can I have it tomorrow? Yeah. It's funny you bring this up because that's the one wrinkle that I never got over, right? I have never had an equity partner. Right. Because I didn't want that. I was like, that's a bridge too far. However, I actually counted up the other day. Maybe it's been 6 months. I've borrowed about just under $11 million as debt. I was perfectly happy having friends and family be debt because I knew if I didn't pay, they'd just take the property. I put together deals on purpose that frankly, all of my friends hope I didn't pay. That was the kind of deal structure I was comfortable with. Like, for example, in 2010-11, my friends were giving me the entire purchase price. I didn't put a single penny down for millions of dollars in real estate. However, this is the wrinkle. I funded the repairs. And then I would go back and take the capital out, pay them back and get, my capital back if I did it right. So if there was a loss, I took it. Right. And then in 2000 when did I retire? 18, for about a 2-year run, I had friends going, hey, I want to help you. I want to help you. And I didn't want to pay 12% because I was paying 12% interest, 10 to 12% interest back in the day. I was like, okay, I'm still not taking any equity partners, but you know what? I'm bored. I'm going to flip some properties. I'm going to go buy slumlord properties and flip them. So what I did there is I paid 6% interest and then gave them 20% of the upside. Again, they paid the entire purchase price and I only funded the repairs. Again, setting it up that I would lose. So this
is interesting, Michael. This is interesting. Yeah. Like, I'm reading your hat, do the work. I think these people are, it's not that the property doesn't matter, because the property does matter. The asset matters, but these people trust you.
Oh, no question.
You do what you say you're going to do. And then I'm not suggesting that you've never made a mistake in the investing world. That would be crazy to think. But the thing is these people are buying into Michael. And that's what Ryan and I have tried to figure out. Like, how can people buy into us knowing that we're going to be authentic and tell you the issues, the problems, and the good, the bad, the ugly every step of the way? But that's who they're buying into. And we've raised capital that way from relationships well before the percentage return comes in,
No, and you're absolutely right. And again, I told everybody that I borrowed from, I'm like, here's the deal. You could lose money. It's in the note because it's a legal document. Like, the risk of losing capital is here and it could happen. And then there's the next line. Don't worry, Michael will lose all his money first. Because it would, right? I could not promise a return, but I can guarantee you all my money would be lost first before you were impaired. That's what I was comfortable with. But I wanted to flip this because, again, I've never raised equity capital. So talk to me about raising equity capital, because again, that's a bridge I've not crossed, and I'd love your experience.
I think part of the realization that Ryan and I had was that we're pretty good at this, but we're not amazing at it. Okay, so let me explain what that means. We're good at buying duplexes, we're good at buying triplexes, and then we met people who were doing this full time while we were still working our jobs, and they were buying 50 units, 100 units, and we're like, wow. Are we, as two people who are working our full-time jobs, going to go try to compete with somebody who does this full-time to try to buy a 10-plex and try to buy a 20 unit? And the answer was we could, but we decided let's join forces. So we have a good friend, Sean Winslow. Sean, if you're listening, we love you. He's in New Hampshire, and we met him through the podcast, Greenbrier Capital, and we started to partner with him where he was saying, look, you will be part of the general partnership team. I know you have a network of people that want to invest in real estate. Bring on limited partners, and I'll go find the deal. You'll be capital raisers, investor relations, marketing. We'll help underwrite. Like, you can't just raise capital, but we'll parlay our skill sets, which is creating relationships with people, and then we'll get part of the deal. And we don't do this with just anybody, right? That's not the game. You don't just say, hey, I'm going to raise capital for just anybody. You raise capital and you build relationships with people that you align with. And that was the first thing that happened. So it was reaching out to our limited network. And then we've done 506B, which is friends and family. We've done 506C, which is accredited investors. It came down to, hey, do you trust us? Let's show you the projects that we've done, just the two of us. Let's show you the projects that we've done that we were limited partners on, where we risked our own capital. And now we bring in the general partnerships. And I think it was, again, not the 6% preferred return and the 14% IRR that showed people, hey, this is a great deal. It's like Cory and Ryan are putting their message out there, and we have a brand on the line for this. So that was the, and we've made mistakes too. We can talk about that. But I think the point is that the equity portion was like, this is our entryway in. That was all we knew. So that was why we went that route.
It's going to be interesting because if you guys watch my channel at all, I've been calling the death of syndication, not all of them, clearly. But there was so much foolish capital, so many horrible deals, so many horrible debt structures, IO, bridge debt, there's going to be a lot of losses in commercial real estate, lots of losses. Yep. And it's just started. However, the other side of these losses are life-changing deals, right? There's an old saying that people often quote, buy when there's blood in the street. They don't realize that that's only the start of the quote. The actual quote is buy when there's blood in the street, even if some of it's yours. Right. So I think there's a couple of things coming our way. And if you did a deal in 21, 22, IO, bridge debt, bad assumptions, low cap rates, there's a very good chance that equity is gone. Now, is it realized? That depends on your lender. If your lender wants to extend and pretend you can work your way out of it, the equity will be trapped longer than expected. There will be some that blow up because the operator is just horrible.
Yep.
But for the next 24, possibly 30 months, they're going to be life-changing deals. I mean, just follow Ken McElroy. Ken McElroy, again, I don't play where he plays, Class A. He just bought an apartment building like 2 miles from where I live. He got a 40% discount, put on some debt. It cash flows today.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
So again, I'm looking, like, if you've read my book, I'm looking to do what I did in 2006, and that's sell houses and buy apartments, right, via 1031 exchange. So I'm excited for the opportunities that are coming. I think if you're raising, capital now and you're being conservative, you can make life-changing money in the next decade.
I love it. I think, so the person that one of our partners I mentioned, Sean, he has over 410 units and he's been buying since, I believe, 2016. We haven't done any deals with him in 24. And that is because of the specific buy box that he had. And he said this to us. He's like, I want to bring you into things. We haven't found something. We've made offers. We got close. It fell through, blah, blah, blah. But like, we haven't bought anything in 24. And that is because we're not going to stoop just to buy real estate because we're real estate investors. Like What we are is we're going to make informed decisions. We bought a lot in 23. I believe that 25 is going to be a big year for us. Both on the syndication side, and then Ryan and I are continuing to pad our personal portfolio. But it's not just, you don't want to just get in just to get in. And that's why,
exactly.
And that's why, to count how many units you have is, it's a bad game to play if that's the only thing you have to show for it, just to say you bought real estate.
Yeah. Well, one of the things you guys talked about when you talked about your portfolio, I just want to poke at a little bit, is you said you bought a boutique hotel. I don't know anybody that owns a boutique hotel. So let's talk about how you found it. What is it? What's your competitive advantage? I really have no idea what questions to ask. What is it about buying a boutique hotel?
Well, this is a good question. So this was another operator that we worked with, and we're on the general partnership team. It's in the Pocono Mountains in north of Philadelphia. So it's used actually, I guess we call it a boutique hotel, right? But it's really like used on Airbnb, right? As separate units, right? So it's kind of like it's like a 43 unit, 20 of which are actually long-term. And then the other 23 are short-term rentals booked separately, but I guess you could call it a hotel. So we used seller financing to find the deal. Our partner JD found this deal. Nice. And he got it under market value. And for the last year, we've been doing internal renovations unit by unit. We finished it completely. I don't have the exact numbers on it in front of me, so I don't want to speak out of turn, but we were part of the team that brought in some capital for it, and it's very seasonal there. So it's very interesting when you're doing this. Like the winter and the summers are amazing in the Poconos, and the fall and spring you're trying to break even. So it's not traditional in the sense that like you're getting this quarterly return on a syndication that most do. It's like in the winter you're hitting home runs, in the summer you're hitting grand slams, and then we're covering our expenses in the rest of the year. So for us, it was like, who do we jive with? We had a bunch of properties in the Poconos that we owned personally. And then this opportunity came to us, and we partnered with somebody who just knew that market like the back of his hand, and he lives up there. So did I miss anything on that, Ryan? I don't know if I did.
I can break down some of the numbers. I'll give you like the ballpark, but the purchase price was 4.3 mil. The renovation spend was around 750, and it's worth at, I wouldn't say like ballpark, right? 6.2 today, which is great. So we're, up at least $1 million, and so
we have not refied yet. We're in the process of that, of trying, we bought it. Sorry to cut you off, Ryan, but we bought it on seller financing, and the rates then went up, and it's like, we're kind of in this hold period of like, we're paying
seller financing is great as long as the balloon payments years away. It's
and it is, which is helpful. Yeah.
No rush. No, I mean, I've done
the interesting part about this place too, just to give you a little background, like the seller finance deal is it was a family business, and these guys did not want to, one of the brothers didn't want to get rid of it. The other brother did. And the brother that couldn't part ways emotionally, he did all the renovations. He owns a construction company up in the Poconos.
Oh, you gave him a little taste.
Gave him a little taste, and we're paying him back. So, and it's just awesome. It's flowing succinctly, and he wants to see it successful, right? And that is the driving factor that's different from just a traditional deal. Where it's like, okay, guys, go ahead, good luck. It's his baby, right? And he's like, I don't want, even though it's matured 18 plus, right? I still want it to flourish. I still want to watch and help nurture. So it's really nice. And I don't think, most deals aren't like that.
No, certainly. I've been in real estate a long time. I don't think I have any former sellers working on my properties. So.
That's the only one for us too. So.
There you go. Well, I'm curious, guys. You guys have done a lot in 5 years. Let's just call it 5 years, 2020 to 20. Let's call it 25. Where do you guys go next? What's going on for you guys next?
That's a great question. So Ryan mentioned seasons, right? We're still looking to purchase property through two of our operators. We have a ground up development project that we're working on in Arizona. We're part of a large general partnership team for that. So we've raised capital there, but we're either trying to do some of those syndications with the people that we trust the most and then pad our portfolio. I have property down in Tampa, Florida. So I have a great team down there. We're in Philadelphia. So we're looking to buy north of Tampa, but not in a rush. That is our goal, is to do that. But really the biggest thing is grow our coaching program. We have 28 members. We're trying to bring people into our community that are where we were in 2018, 2019, not knowing what to do, wet behind the ears, water coming in my basement, house on fire, not knowing who to call. Truly, like all those things happen. And I remember the feeling of like, I don't have anybody to talk to. So our goal is to grow our coaching platform, to bring people in, to show them that it's possible, that it's the power of one. You can do it too. You just need somebody looking over your shoulder that's done it a couple times to show you, here's what to do, here's what not to do. So our goal is to grow that in 2025. That's our biggest priority.
And Ryan, where could somebody find it to learn more? Where do they go?
You can find it simple. We made it as simple as possible. You guys can follow us on Instagram at WealthJuiceOfficial, and that will have all the information on the coaching program, what we're doing on the day-to-day. That's where we run most of our business. If you listen to our podcast, everybody listens to a podcast, right? But they're like, hey, how do I talk to the guys that are running the show? Instagram's our bread and butter. It's our baby. So we're in the DMs every day, and you can find us there.
Ryan, one more time. What is the handle?
At WealthJuiceOfficial.
Awesome, guys. Thank you so much. It's been fun to talk to you. Thank you. Thank you for everything. Thank you for reaching out.
I appreciate you having us on, man. This has been awesome. Great to catch up.
Yep.
Thank you.